I heard someone recently talk about the word feed, and you hear the word feed associated normally in an agricultural context where people use feed to give to their farm animals. But then feed is also something that we consume through an app. Every time you're scrolling through a feed, you're like an animal eating at a trough. And after hearing that, I didn't want to look at feeds no more. But there are times where my brain goes offline and I do it anyway. And then when it comes back online midway through scrolling, I'm like, whoa, I've been scrolling like an animal eating at a trough. So focus isn't necessarily the ability to remain attentive, but more the ability to remain undistracted. Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, yet itself is the greatest of our miseries. Too much sugar leads to a heavy body, too many distractions lead to a heavy mind. So the biggest distractions in our lives are our phones. We check them on average every 3 minutes. Like a while back, I realised that I was spending a lot of time on my phone on apps that I didn't want to use, like classic social media apps. I was spending way longer on them than I actually wanted to use them for. So I wanted to change that, and so this is what I did. I realised firstly that hope is not a strategy. I used to think, oh yeah, tomorrow hopefully I won't go on my phone that much, but I ended up doing it anyway. And then eventually I realised I had to take action and do some specific things to stop me using my phone that much. So it started within the morning. First thing I do is don't have my phone in arm's reach, because I am susceptible to just grabbing my phone and sitting in bed scrolling through things. Even if I don't want to, it's so easy just to grab it and sit in bed and waste parts of the morning, and on a weekend it can be wipeout for the morning. If the first thing you do in the morning is look at your phone for longer than just the time it takes to turn off your alarm, what you're doing is creating a subconscious habit that links you to your phone. That habit will form and it will stick with you every day, and before you know it, you're spending chunks of your morning just getting lost in your phone and not being aware of it. If you think that you can multitask when you're using your phone and doing something else, that doesn't happen. When you're doing two things, you'll constantly flip between the two. The book Deep Work by Cal Newport talks about how when you're switching between tasks, that's called context switching. You're switching between contexts. So you can be switching from your phone to the laptop, or from your phone to another human, or from the TV to your work. And every time you switch context, something happens called attention residue. What attention residue is say for example you're working and you look at your phone and then go back to your work. The level of focus that you were on when you were looking at your work has now reduced. Because every time you look away and put your attention on your phone, even if it's for a second, when you go back to what you were doing, you have to use mental energy to reorient yourself back to that task. So you have to recall where on that document you were writing, what was your train of thought before you looked at your phone. So that state can last for 5 to 10 minutes before you can get back to whatever task you were doing with the same level of focus. All of that uses brain power, and you only have a certain amount of brain power in the day. So I used to think, why don't I just use brain power to resist going on my phone? But I think of brain power as willpower, and you only have a certain amount of willpower that you can use in a day, so you want to reserve it for the most important things. Every time I was context switching, I was actually sapping that willpower bar down until eventually, when it's down to zero, you have no willpower to resist anything, so you just give in and you can sit on your phone for like the rest of the day. Even if you're not using your phone but it's in your eyeline, that will drain attention away from whatever you're doing, and a little bit will go into resisting using your phone. So I don't keep my phone in my eyeline at all. The next thing I did was just turn off my phone. I used to turn off my phone all the time when I was a kid, but then a few years later I just stopped doing it. And then when I went back to turning off my phone again, there was this anxiety in turning off my phone where I thought someone could contact me in an emergency. But I broke through it by reflecting on the fact that when was the last time someone actually contacted me in an emergency? And I can't actually remember a single time ever. So then I think, will a few hours of turning off my phone mathematically make sense in that someone's going to contact me in an emergency if for the last 10 years of my life I can't remember being contacted in an emergency once. So I found that anxiety was just my ego needing security, and the more I cut it off, the more hours I spent with my phone off, the easier it got to just continue doing that. But then I found a better way instead of just turning off my phone, because if the procrastination was strong, I'd just go and pick up my phone and turn it on again and use it. But then I started using this thing called Zen Mode. This is what it looks like. It's set up on my phone already, but you can get apps that do the same thing. I'll choose how long I want to use it for. So if I know I want to concentrate for the next hour, I'll press that. And the way it works is it'll lock my phone, so I won't be able to use anything apart from emergency calls, my camera, and if someone calls me. But once you start it, you can't stop it. And even if you turn off your phone and turn it back on again, it will keep running. So that saves me so much brain power in not having to resist using my phone, because I know that I just won't be able to use it. I've found that my level of focus has gone up without even really trying. And there's so many times when I will just blindly pick up my phone and just look at it without even being aware, like without even thinking that I wanted to do it. I just habitually just grab my phone and start looking at it. But when I set Zen Mode, I'm like, oh yeah, and then just put it back down. So there's this Greek myth about Odysseus and the sirens. So there's this guy called Odysseus, and he's on his boat and he's going through the ocean, and he knows that his boat is about to sail past these sirens. So they're this mythical creature where they'll sing and attract the sailors to pull up on the island, but then they'd kill him. Odysseus knew that there were sirens coming up, so Odysseus tied himself to the ship's mast and told his crew members to fill their ears with earwax so they wouldn't be able to hear the song, so they wouldn't be tempted to land. So the way that story links with phone distraction is I know that I'm going to be tempted in the future, so I'll take measures to stop it before that happens. I like to think of it as being in a hot and a cold state of temptation. So when you're in a hot state, you're really tempted to use your phone, but when you're in a cold state, you're not tempted to use your phone. So for example, with me, I know that I'm at my most distractible when I'm doing something that's the most important. So before I do that task, I'm in a cold state where I know that once I start the task, I'll be in a hot state and easily distractible, easily tempted to go and use my phone. So I set Zen Mode when I'm in my cold state to prevent that from happening. Similarly to how Odysseus tied himself to the mast before he knew that he would listen to the siren song. And the other thing I did with my phone was I installed this app called Before Launcher that completely changed the way my phone looks and turned it into a super minimalist design. So I used to think my phone is a tool, like a hammer or a spanner. It's there when I need it and I can use it. But after watching The Social Dilemma, I realised that my phone is way more than that. It's a tool that tries to get me to use it. And then when I use it, it tries to get me to do things that I didn't even want to use it for. So if I wanted to go on my phone and use one app, once I see 20 apps in front of me, it's an immediate distraction to do something else. So yeah, Before Launcher, it's a minimalist design that goes through apps one by one, gives me some breathing space. And then my home page used to be loads of apps, and I used to think I was super productive. I'll go on my home page and quickly tap and find it. But now it's just this. The two things that I use my phone for the most, which are my lights and my note-taking app. Just by using that app, I cut down how much distracted time I was using on my phone. So the next thing I did was track how much time I was using on my phone. I got this app called Digital Wellbeing. It shows me how long I was using my phone and for how long I was using certain apps. It allows me to set timers on apps. So when I try and go on the app, it will say that it's locked. It's a reminder for me to think I didn't even want to tap on this anyway, and then I just get back to whatever else I was doing. So there's things that I want to do, but it feels like there isn't enough time in the day. But really, when I look how much time I'm spending on my phone, there is enough time in the day. If I just cut out all the crap from my phone, then I've created an extra hour or two that I can do stuff that I actually want to do. So I don't always manage to do these things perfectly every day. Even when making this video, I was distracted. So if you got something useful out of the video, give it a like, share it with someone that you know that you might find it useful. Peace.